Welcome to Actual Scale Modelling. For my next build, I'm building this AMT's Star Wars Jabba the Hutt throne room. This kit is quite an old kit. I think it came out early in 1990s, something like that. It is a basic kit that I'll show you in a second. So I'll just open up the box, and inside we have an old letter for the fan club, which obviously you don't need anymore. Some basic instructions. This is the paint guide. It's a whole sheet on its own, and that was quite good to follow actually. And the instructions. Now the instructions are quite basic. There's not much to build on this kit. It's all to do with the painting. So there's all the different figures it comes with, quite a lot of them, in Jabba itself. Now this kit comes with its own base because, as I said, it's a diorama. There's the base there, and side walls. I'll be modifying that slightly because the space I've got is too small for that base. So I'll be cutting it all down and doing a little bit of reshaping, not much. So let's get into the build. To start off with, I've primed the base, and I've also primed the figures as well. And as you see, it's just a light coat of prime on here. This is an A4 size piece of plywood that I'm going to be using for the bottom of the diorama. So I'm going to be cutting this base to the size. So the best way I found to do this was just to measure it up by placing the board onto the diorama, flipped it over, then just marked out with a pen in this case to get the general shape, and then start cutting. So I'm just using a normal pair of scissors to cut this. You can use a hobby knife and whatever. It doesn't have to be an exact straight line. The main thing here is just cutting it down to size. Careful not to rip it if you are cutting it. I did rip mine a little bit, but I was able to get away with that. So once it was cut, I was able to check it for size, just to see how it would fit on the board. Once I was happy with the size, it's time to bond it down. So I'm just using some super glue here. I'm just putting it all over the place. Careful you don't get it on your hands when you're doing this. I did. It was a bit of a nightmare. But then just flip it over and then press it onto the board. Now the kit comes with these solid plastic walls. Obviously because I've cut it now, they don't fit. So I'm going to have to modify them slightly. And I'll just take my pencil, marrying the part up to the base unit, getting the arch fairly centralised, and just making marks where I need to cut the piece. And once I've made marks, I'm just taking my ruler to make the line straight. And then it's time for cutting. So I've scored the line just so it's a little bit easier for the saw to go in. And when you're sawing, just start off gently before working up any speed, especially on soft plastic like that. It doesn't take much to get it going. And just dry fit the two parts together. This is slotting very easily, and check with your area whether it's a fit that you like before cementing it into place. And now for the side section of the diorama, I'm just placing the back arch on. It's not cemented as yet, and the reason for that, I need to find out where to put the arch on the second piece. Remember, everything's having to be resized, so I'm marking it up in the same way as the back piece. It's always advisable as well just to double check where you're cutting before you actually do the cutting. Like here, so I've just made my line, and I'm just going to check to make sure I'm happy with it, because you only get one chance to cut it. On the diorama there's two little location points which I'll just point out there and there, and because I've cut the part, those location points are relative now, so I've just filled them up with a little bit of filler. So I'm checking again for the fit, and to be honest with you, it's slightly off centre, but it's nothing too bad. Now it's time to cement it in place, so I'm just using normal Revell cement here. There is actually one location point which helps to place this, If you can see it going in there, and the other half just sits on top. You may need to put a support underneath the actual film, thin bit of plastic of the board, to give it some purpose. Before I fill in these two location points, I'm just taking a bit of scrap plastic from the diorama base, putting a little bit of cement on, and gluing these on the underside. It's just so that the filler has somewhere to go. It's not just going to drip off out the hole. So I'm just slipping it in and holding it into place until it sets. To fill it, I'm using my own filler, and this is melted down sprue with normal cement. So you just put little bits of sprue into quite a bit of cement and let that dissolve over time, and then it acts as a filler as well as a bonding agent too. Now this diorama only has one side wall on it, so I decided to build another side wall to cover up that little tear that I have there, and I think it would look much better. So what I've done is the piece I've taken off the bottom, this is actually where all the table and chairs go inside the throne room. So I'm going to make that into a side wall. So first off, I'm just measuring it up so the one of the table recesses matches up with the stairs. So I'm going to create an arch by cutting out the area. And once I've cut it out, it's just a matter of trying to bond it together. Now it's not 100% fit. What are now the pillars of an arch don't quite match up to the opening where the stairs are, but that's something I'll be able to address later on. The main thing is just to get it on. Now that side of the wall's on, I'm just filing down the areas that I filled up, the location point areas. So I'm just using a file just to put them down to the same level. Now I'm using my filler and bonding agent as a glue here, because there is going to be a little bit of gap in at the side here, because it has been cut, and the nature of the other side sort of bends and bows a little bit. So instead of trying to fill it after it goes on, I'm just using this bonding agent now and filler to place it on. So I put a good bit on, and then it should marry up to the sides. It's very difficult to get this on camera so you can see, but I'll try. So as you can see it going on there now, so there's a slight gap, but that's what the bonding's for, the filler's for. Back to the opposite wall now. For the pillars that don't quite match up with the stairwell, I'm taking another piece of scrap plastic from the diorama base, and I've just bent it slightly, and I'm using that as a wrap to go around the pillar to make it marry up. Now this is not going to be straight, but I didn't want it to be straight. These things are sort of, the pallets and thrown, they're sort of moulded out of sand and stone, so nothing's going to be straight. It's a bit, as I said before, it's difficult to do this on camera, but I'll spin it around in a sec just so that you can see it. If you've got any clamps, if you can get the clamps to fit as well, it's always handy. Or you can just try and hold it to see if you can get to bond. I mean, this wasn't easy, it was fiddly to do. So you can't quite make out, but you can see the other one without the clamps. So I'll just stick it out a little bit, but that'll get trimmed down once it's all dried up. Now because I cut things to size, not everything really matches up. So what I'm using here is just a bit of card from the actual bolts of the kit, and I'm just placing it over the top like a fascia, just to hide any massive gaps. So I'm not using filler or things like that to fill up and make it run smooth. I thought laying a bit of cardboard over the top would be a little bit easier. And of course the size tube will need to be filled, so again this is just a bit of card laid over the top. I'm attaching, bonding this together with super glue, and once it's all on, I'm just using my hobby knife to trim off any excess. Once that was all done, I took it outside and used a rattle can as a sort of sandy colour that I used, just to give it some colour, saving up painting. And then when it was dried out, it was time to put on a coat of clear. So that's clear polish as a floor polish. I've mentioned it many times before, but it's always good to mention it each time in case you've never seen it before. Now it's time to put the figures together while that's drying. Now there's various figures, as I said. I haven't recorded every single one I put together because it's just the same thing all over again. There's about 5-6 you have to put together, and they're just back pieces that they snap on. Be careful because there can be some gaps. You may need a couple of clips just to close them up. So you can see how many figures there are there. Each figure comes with its own stand that's molded onto it. I don't like those stands. I think they take something away from the diorama and the figures. So I cut each base off. It takes a little bit of time, and you have to be quite careful. But if you use your miter saw, flat saw, and just gently take them off. I ran into a problem here. As I was putting Jabba together, half his tail was missing in the front half there. So I took a piece of plasticine to see whether it would be possible to mould it, and I thought it was. So I took some air drying clay and just rolled it into a sausage shape. And once I was done, I just shaped it to how the plasticine was and married it up to the tail. So I put it on the back piece of the tail and pressed firmly in to follow the contours, and so I blended it into the body and curved the tail. Now the tail now is a little bit bigger than the actual model suggested, but I think I got the proportions okay. So it's a little bit of work. I'm not sure whether I'm very good at it or not, but it seemed to work. I then took a cocktail stick and just marked the part, like trying to emulate the rest of the body, because there's sort of lines and divots on the mould, Jabba skin. So I'm just trying to recreate that. Overall, I think it worked out alright. I do like the effect. Now, it comes to painting these figures. There, as I said, there's a lot of figures, and there's a hell of a lot of paint as well. In fact, there's too many to list individually. So what I'll do is I'll fast forward the painting of the figures, and I'll leave up a picture of the paints that I used. So as I'm going through these, I'll just say that I'm not a great figure painter at all. In fact, I'm quite poor really. You know, practice makes perfect, but I've got a long way to go on figure painting. So I did my best. If you are good at them, you'll see where the obvious mistakes are. But you know, I just done my best. I mean, I won't show you them all on the fast forward because it would take forever. But I did come across another problem, and that was Mark's reboot. Now that's the little blue guy that plays the round piano. Now he was missing from the kit, which was very annoying because I think he's really cool. Now I was going to leave him off, but my wife persuaded me to try and build it out of clay. So that's what I'm doing. So I've taken a couple of little blobs of clay and done his body would just be a little dab of stuff. Then I took another ball of clay and pressed it and shaped it into a head and nose, then placed it on, and I did the same with the ears and arms as well. It's not brilliant, but at a distance it does look like Mark's reboot. I didn't quite get the hands right. I couldn't sculpt him too well. It's too small for me, and I don't really have any sculpting tools that can really get in and do it properly. You know. But saying all that, it was enjoyable to do. It's something I'd never done before. There's probably a better way to do it, you know. But I think it worked. So this is one of the ears going on now, and there he is there. And when he's painted, I think it looks okay. So once he was dry, it was time to paint. So I just picked a blue that I think it would be alright. So I painted the underside first, and I'm using super glue on the base just to attach him. and then once it was dry it was time to paint the upper half of the body. So I used a bit of black then at the end just to dot some eyes in. The pictures I looked at had just solid black eyes, so no need for worrying about irises or anything like that. So just two small dots of the eyes, and that was them done. I think if you look at a distance it looks okay. If you look at close up you can see the obvious mistakes. The kit comes with two Han Solos, one normal and one in frozen in carbonite. So I decided to do the one frozen in carbonite just because it was easier to paint. By this point I'd painted a lot of figures and I was just getting fed up with them, to tell you the truth. The last to be painted was Jabba, and I started off with a little dark colour and I'm just dotting it on with an old brush. A stipple brush works really well with this. I don't want a proper smooth paint texture for the skin. Cody's a little bit larger than the other figures. I wanted to do a really good job on them. I actually like the results. Whether it looks like the movie or not, I'm not 100% sure. But blending in the different colours and that was kind of fun. And as I said, I like the results at the end. So to achieve the look I just use a pale yellow and greens and working into a dark green, and use a little bit of red brown for the eyes and a black for the pupil. So there's the end result. I think I worked it okay. Now it was on to painting his throne or his bed, and that was just painted in a light beige colour then onto a stone grey colour. There's some cushions on the bed, and I just picked bright colours to paint them in. The thing at the back, I've no idea what it is. It was painted in a base colour Revell Aquacolor 91 steel, and I just painted that all over initially. And the top part I used Tamier's Gold Leaf X12 to put in the gold and highlights. I also used a bit of weathering powder as well, just to give it a bit of depth. Back to the main diorama now. Now the arches were Jabba's throne sets, and the two accesses. I decided I could either paint them black or do something different. So what I did was I grabbed a picture of Tatooine in the back, and a couple of Gothic pictures of stairwells and that, and I printed them off and cut them to size of the arch, so in those areas there. So once I cut them down, I just added a little PVA glue all over, and then fitted them inside. It was a little bit tricky to do on camera, so unfortunately you can't really see what's going on. So once the back one's in, it was time to do the side ones. A little bit easier to show you on camera this one. So same process, a little bit of PVA glue and placing the picture inside. For the detailing of the diorama, these little squares or grates sitting on the throne room floor, directly above the Rancor monster pit. I just painted them in a greyish stony colour and highlighted them as I went on. For the trapdoor I done it a slightly darker colour. And once it was dry, I applied some washes to bring out the details and the highlights. So I just used a bit of wash around the borders first of all, and then I dotted it around on the actual panel itself before lightly just brushing it around to change the colour. And that wash was Umbral dark grey wash, and it was the same process with Jabba's throne. For the detailing of the actual scene itself, I'm using these Armo Mig oil brushes, and what you do is you take whatever colour you prefer, and you're starting off with light and just dotting some colour around it, and then I take a clean brush and dampen that in some white spirit, which is in this cup here, and then just thin it into the actual diorama. Only do this if you've glossed it first or put a coat of clear on, because you will lift up your paint otherwise. So just blend it in, and then go on to darker colours. So then it was time to put in the parts of the throne. So that thing, whatever it is that goes at the back of the throne, gets popped in. Let's turn it around so you can see it. Next is Jabba's throne. Now that's his little serving table just going on before I place Jabba on. And again, this is just normal cement. You can see the two location points there, and it just fits in together perfectly. So make sure you got them the right way around. I almost put them in the wrong way around, and it just pushes on without too much fuss. And once it's dry, it's time to put them on. And again, it's just a little bit of cement on the area before pushing them into position. And it goes in without a fuss, so that's it in now. Then it was time to place in all the figures. Again, a lot of this was done with the camera really can't pick it up because of the size of the diorama. But I started off with the band first. So Five Noodles, Max Rebo, and Cooley McMull, love that name. I'll go in first, and all the other little characters are just getting placed in. It's entirely up to you how you place them in, especially if you've shortened up the diorama as I have. So I'll carry on placing these in, but this is bringing the build to an end now. And it was, as I said before at the start, it was a basic kit, but it did have its challenges, especially with the amount of figures there was. Also, it didn't help that one of the ones were missing and part of Jabba's tail was missing. You know, but I got around those little problems. You don't have to shorten it the way I did, it'd be a lot easier. You know, don't worry about the cuteness at the top, because when I display it, you're only actually going to be able to see inside it. You know, but it's entirely up to you how you want to do it. I would recommend this kit for beginners though. Kids would love it if they're into Star Wars. You can still get them, they are still quite easy to find, and they don't cost that much, because you know, people know that these kits are not 100% accurate. They need, if you're going to do them into a movie version, they take a lot of work to do, but just for a bit of fun, they're perfectly fine. So there'll be the usual slideshow at the end, but I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you all for watching. Why don't you check out my other videos? There's one or two things there for everyone, hopefully. Subscribe to my channel if you can. Throw me a like, always like to see that. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.